I moved into the third floor apartment because it was cheap and I liked the idea of no one living above me. No footsteps overhead, no muffled music through the ceiling, just quiet. And for the first month, that's exactly what I got. A building so still at night that I could hear the hum of the hallway lights and the faint ticking of pipes behind the walls. The staircase was directly outside my door, an old wooden set of steps that curled upwards from the lobby to the second floor. Then to mine. That was it. Above my landing, there was only a short stretch of wall and the flat. Sealed ceilings, nowhere else to go. The first time I heard footsteps, it was just after 1 a.m. Slow and heavy. Someone climbing from the lobby level. Step, pause, step, pause. Like they were tired or carrying something heavy. I remember glancing at the clock and feeling mildly annoyed because who moves around at that hour on a Tuesday? But the steps reached the second floor and kept going towards mine, each one making the wood creak in a way I'd come to recognize. I waited for them to stop at my landing, for a door to open, for keys to jingle, but instead the footsteps continued past my door, past the final visible stair. And then I heard something that made my skin prickle. A footfall above me. I sat up in bed, staring upwards, trying to rationalize it, thinking maybe there was an attic access I didn't know about. Maybe maintenance had installed something up there. But the steps continued, slow and deliberate, pacing across a space that shouldn't exist. The sound duller now, like weight pressing against old wood beams. After about 10 seconds, the footsteps stopped directly above my bedroom. The silence that followed felt heavier than the sound had. I didn't sleep much that night, and in the morning I asked the landlord casually if there was an attic access above my unit. He laughed and said no, that the roof sat directly above my ceiling. Solid, sealed. No crawl space, no loft, nothing. And I forced a smile and told him I must have imagined it. The next night, the footsteps came again. Earlier this time, about 12:30. The same slow climb from the lobby, the same pause at each step, and I found myself standing at my door, peering through the peephole as the sounds approached, half expecting to see someone's shadow stretch across the landing, but when the steps reached my floor, the hallway remained empty, the motion sensor lights unmoving. And still the sound continued upwards, passing the last visible stair and rising into that impossible space above. This time, instead of pacing, the steps moved with purpose, crossing directly over my living room, then my kitchen, mapping the layout of my apartment from above, as if following my exact floor plan. I grabbed my phone and recorded the sound, my breathing loud in the silence, whispering the time and date as proof that I wasn't losing my mind, and then the footsteps stopped again, right above my front door. There was a long, scraping noise like something heavy being dragged across the ceiling, and a fine dust began to fall from the light fixtures in my hallway, drifting down in soft gray flakes. I stumbled backwards as a faint cracking sound splintered through the air, thin lines spreading across the paint overhead, and with a sickening realization I understood that whatever had been walking up there wasn't pacing anymore. It was pressing down. The crack widened slowly, plaster bowing under weight that should not have been there. And I saw the faint outline of something through the ceiling. A darker shape shifting against the drywall, roughly the size of a person crouched low. I ran for the door, fumbling with the chain lock, but before I could open it, there was a thunderous crash. A section of ceiling gave way behind me, exploding into dust and splinters. I turned just in time to see a pair of legs drop through the hole, followed by a torso, unfolding itself with unnatural slowness, joints bending at wrong angles, as if relearning how to move. The figure lowered itself down into the hallway, not falling, but descending carefully, as though it had all the time in the world. Its head was the last thing to emerge, tilting sideways to look at me with a face that seemed almost human except for the smile stretched too wide and the eyes that didn't blink. I screamed and yanked the door open, bolting down the staircase 2 steps at a time. As I reached the 2nd floor, I heard it behind me, not running, not chasing fast, just stepping onto the stairs with that same slow, deliberate rhythm. Step, pause, step, pause, patient as ever. I flew into the lobby and out into the street, not daring to look back until I reached the opposite sidewalk. And when I finally did, the stairwell window was dark and empty. No silhouette, no movement. The police searched the building top to bottom and found no one. And when they looked at the ceiling, they insisted the collapse was due to water damage. The stress and rot had caused it to cave in. There were no footprints in the debris except my own. But what none of them could explain, what I still hear every night after moving 3 cities away, is the sound of footsteps beginning at the bottom of a staircase, climbing slowly towards a floor that doesn't exist, and stopping just above wherever I happen to be sleeping.